This is a story that I wrote, a short story for a creative writing class that I took at University of Central Florida, called Florida Technological University at the time. The professor was a well-recognized poet in the area, and he gave me a very complimentary remarks and grade. Saturday morning's alarm clock rang for only a few seconds before the young man turned it off. He had been awake for at least an hour already. The floor felt cold under his bare feet, and the crisp chill in the room made it easy for him to move quickly. While the shower began to raise clouds of steam in the small bathroom, he quickly shaved before stepping under the hot spray. The lather left by the razor dissolved and flowed down his throat and chest. The water felt so good that the thought of standing there forever rested on his mind for a while. The notion was quickly dismissed when he thought of the more exciting things planned for the day. Dripping and drying his way across the room, he grabbed a terry robe that hung from a hook on the closet door. He dressed automatically as if he was an actor in a play. In fact, he was playing a part that he had blocked in his mind the night before when he had found that he was far too excited to fall asleep at first. All wool trousers came from a hanger in the closet, followed by black socks that had spent the night on top of a chest of drawers. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he tied the shoes he had shined the night before. His feet tested their new surroundings by walking to the closet once again, this time lifting him until only their toes were left on the floor. He reached for a box at the back of the shelf that contained a shirt purchased 2 weeks ago for this day. Crouching now to reach under the shelf, he removed a new tie from the back of a wooden rack and placed it over his wrist for the trek back to the dresser. Standing before the mirror, he carefully dressed the upper part of his body. Before lifting the tie over his head, he turned the collar of the shirt up all around his neck, then spent as much time as he dared arranging his tie and collar. When he turned from the mirror, he was almost satisfied and glanced at the clock beside the bed that assured him he would not be late. He could not be late this morning. After 2 indecisive steps towards the closet, he decided to take the weather instead of taking a coat. Before closing the door, he reached for the scrap of gray cloth that had represented this day for the last 4 years. He looked at it as he started toward the stairs, then closed his hand and placed a square of wool in his pocket to be thrown away with the trousers. 4 blocks of sidewalk, curbs, intersections passed beneath the shining shoes before the door of the tailor's shop stood in front of him. When opened, it emitted the light tinkling of a small bell and the heavy smell of steamed wool. On his right, the gray suit hung behind a pressing table on which the tailor's huge iron rested. From between curtains at the rear of the shop, there emerged an old man wearing a wide smile, a frayed tape measure in place of a tie, and a pincushion as decoration on his shirt sleeve. The young man dressed behind the curtains while the older man passed trousers, vest, and coat through to him. In return, the younger man passed through the old pants and a request that they be thrown away at the tailor's convenience. Stepping through the curtains, the young man was led to the triple mirrors that hung against the wall. His smile made his face ache, and he was beginning to blush, but he liked the way that he looked. Even in the old tailor's mirrors with their tarnished and chipped silvering, he looked good. He felt as new as the suit that surrounded him. He and the suit were becoming as one with each other, while the old man circled around, checking the fit and tugging at the hem here and there. After a few minutes, the excited smile settled comfortably upon his face, and the tailor was beginning to smile gently now as he admired both his work and the expression on the young man's face. He had seen the expression on other young men's faces before, other young men who had saved for a long time to buy a suit that was made for them and them alone. The young man stood entranced before the mirror, gazing at the carefully rolled lapels that turned away from his chest so gracefully. He was hypnotized by the repetitious tiny silk stitches that encompassed each button. He looked and felt better than he had ever felt before. He felt taller, he stood straighter, and his face shined around the glistening smile. Finally, he broke out of the trance enough to thank the old man and pay the last increment of his debt. The tinkling door opened again, this time to the smell of fresh air and sunshine. The mother of two small children who still had shopping to do explained to the policeman for 20 minutes that it was not the truck driver's fault. Not at all. The young man in the gray suit just walked in front of the truck, as though he was in a daze. He was looking up at the sun as he crossed the street, she pointed out, and he was smiling